afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you're having a good Wednesday. You're welcome to our first webinar of the Banking and Financial Services Awareness Month. I would like to thank all of you that joined us yesterday when we were launching the month. We did indicate that we are doing this so that we have closer connection between the users and providers of financial services. But most importantly, so that we improve our financial literacy. We know that financial inclusion is a very big thing, a very, very big thing for the country, but it's not possible if people do not know the value of money or how to make money. So before we delve any further, my name is Goreti Masade, and I'm the CEO at the Institute of Banking and Financial Services. And today I will host you. We are glad to have Miranda Bagaine to take us through a very important subject, the subject of becoming better savers. Now, what the month is about, before Miranda comes on, we are going to be promoting personal financial management and promoting several pillars within this. We are promoting, first of all, the literacy itself, just you knowing what it is about, promoting savings, promoting better loan management, and if you should borrow at all, promoting insurance, promoting retirement, planning for retirement. We want to promote digital products and services, promoting proper investment, and finally, supporting you or learning how to choose a financial service provider and product that is suitable for your needs. Now, when we set out, several questions came up. A number of people said, well, these are too many messages to be sending out at the same time. And our answer is, unfortunately, yes, but it's important. And I'll keep referring to this. Just like we are told we need a balanced diet to be healthy, and there's so many types of foods to eat, unfortunately or fortunately, there is a formula to financial well-being. And the formula involves all these aspects of personal finance. And that's why we are here. Today we have Miranda, and I'll be sharing her profile very quickly, or very soon. Tomorrow we shall have Joan Mugenzi. You all know who Joan Mugenzi, you possibly know who Joan Mugenzi is, the author of Corporates at the Crossroad, teaching us how to transition from where we are to being independent and financially resilient. So there is a lot more that's going to be coming, but today we are going to learn about becoming better savers. Now we know that time is of essence. However, allow me share with you the web portal. Our campaign is Your Money Can Be Money Smart, and it is very well thought out. It's thought out because we know that we've all had challenges, especially with COVID. We've all had challenges. We've all thought, well, I have so little, or I don't have a job. How do I, navigate through these situations? It's true, but it's also possible to navigate through if COVID has taught us anything with whatever we have. A friend made a comment, and I'll make it now, that if you had 1,000 shillings today and you had to go to town, and you live somewhere in Bukasa, and you have to go to town, hoping you can make some little money in town, and you have only 1,000 shillings, what do you do? Previously, we didn't know what to do, but now people walk. So people can buy, somebody can buy 2 chapati from 1,000 shillings. Their chapatis are 500 shillings each. Walk to town to do work, eat 1 chapati, sell 1 for 1,000 at the workplace, and they have 1,000. So those are some of the small little things that we are talking about, that we have to remind ourselves. And it's not easy. We are all learning, but here we are. And that's why the campaign is themed the way it is. Your money can be money smart. Now, to support you, we know that, yes, the webinars are limited in time and sometimes in scope. We have created a portal, www.yourmoneycan.or.ug. Please visit it. It is going to keep improving, but there you will find information that may guide you in different ways. We are also looking for your testimonies. If you have a financial testimony, a breakthrough, or something that you did, share it. We shall be having a testimony of the week award. So please engage, talk to us, ask the experts. You can drop a question, you can drop a comment, and it will be picked up to help you and others. So with those very few introductory remarks, I am going to introduce our speaker, and then she can start to talk to us. So our speaker is Miranda. Miranda is the head of personal banking at DFCU Bank, a role that she has held for the last 2 years. She has over 12 years of experience in both corporate and retail banking, with specific exposure to private banking, investment clubs, and workplace banking. In this time, Miranda has supported the development of products and solutions for clients within her segments of focus in order to support them to achieve their individual and group objectives. Miranda has participated in several financial literacy sessions in Kampala and upcountry, in which customers of the bank have been equipped with the right tools to make informed financial decisions. She holds a BSc degree in quantitative economics from Makerere University and an MSc in finance and investment from Bristol University in the United Kingdom. She has attended several leadership and business programs with Strathmore School, as well as Quest on the Frontier PTE. Miranda is married with 3 children. She's passionate about family and is a member of the Women International Maternity Aid, a local charity organization that promotes and supports improved mother and child health care in Uganda. Miranda is inspired by Nick Vujicic, whose life story is a testimony that we are all fearfully and wonderfully made, and when we focus on the right things, the sky is the limit. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have any better person to talk to us about becoming better at saving than Miranda. Miranda, over to you.
Thank you, Goretti. I hope I can be heard clearly.
You could probably be louder, a little more louder.
Let me lose the earphones. Is this better? For the invitation. I would also want to thank the Institute for arranging this awareness month. Many of us are in the industry, but we take some of these things for granted. So thank you for arranging this month to remind us of some of these things that we need to take seriously. Sometimes we forget, we fall behind, we backslide, for lack of a better word. And yet we know that we need to practice the things that we preach. Those of us who are working in banking and other financial services, we are very good at speaking to customers and clients about these things to do with personal financial management. But when it comes to our personal habits and our own lives, sometimes we don't practice what we preach. So thank you for this opportunity. And I hope I'll be able to deliver according to your expectations. Thank you for that very nice introduction. So I would like to start by sharing a small presentation. Goretti, you're still sharing, so you need to put it down so that I can be able to share. Oh, I think the Institute is sharing. Okay. All right. So my topic of presentation, as you've been told, is becoming better at saving. Now, I think this topic is actually practical because it says becoming better, meaning that there's nobody who is there 100%. There's always room for all of us to become better. Even for those of us who are not saving at all, we can start saving. That is still becoming better at saving. So I thought I would just give a brief introduction to some of these other terms that we usually use alongside saving. because saving doesn't exist as a concept just on its own. It's part of the larger topic on personal finance management, which I know is part of the program, and somebody will be speaking to you about that. So personal finance management is the way in which an individual or a family undertakes to budget, save, and spend monetary resources over time. Of course, they're taking into account different risks, different life events, both expected and unexpected. Financial literacy is the possession of set skills and knowledge that allow individuals to make informed and effective decisions with all of their financial resources. When Goretti was introducing me, she talked about financial literacy. As a bank, I am very proud to work for DFCU Bank because this is something that we take very seriously. In most of our products where we're encouraging customers to save, we actually go the extra mile to deliver financial literacy sessions to these customers so that they're able to better manage their finances. And so after this has been done, financial empowerment, which is our ultimate goal as a bank, is the process of increasing the capacity of individuals to make the right financial choices and to transform these choices into desired actions. So basically, what we are doing here is we are trying to change people's financial knowledge in order to change their financial behavior. And so for today, I'll be speaking specifically about savings, which is one of the basic first steps that you take in order to change your financial behavior. So when you speak about savings, you cannot speak about savings without talking about your money habits. What are your money habits? What are our money habits? How do you spend? And how does your spending and saving impact your finances? So there's certain questions we need to ask ourselves. How are your spending habits working for you? Now, there's nobody who can say that they have achieved perfection in this area. So as part of becoming better savers, you need to ask yourself these critical questions. How are your spending habits working for you? Do you feel bad every time you spend? Or when you spend, do you go back and wish you hadn't spent what you just spent? What are your good and bad spending habits? Are you able to differentiate them? Or because I know people who move around thinking that if their bad spending habits are normal, that it's okay, life is short. You know, there are people who say, why are you making money if not to spend it? So it's true, there are people who actually believe that their bad spending habits are okay. So the question is, do you know what your good and bad spending habits are? And then thirdly, what influences you to spend your money? I think this is a very important question for us to ask ourselves. What is the motive or the motivation behind your spending money? Some of us spend money because we want to be accepted in society, because we want to be admired or respected. And some of us also spend money because we want maybe to show people that we are very kind. There are people who spend money because they think it's going to probably get them into heaven or something like that. So at the end of the day, have you asked yourself what influences you to spend your money? Because once you understand what is making you spend your money, then it's easier for you to manage your spending. So as part of understanding our money habits, we need to be able to differentiate what our wants are from our needs. And this seems like very basic stuff, that's the truth. But even those of us who have been in the financial services industry for long, we see this on a daily with customers who come in to borrow for wants. And it's a fact. I mean, you can see it. You're having a discussion with the customer and you can see very well that this person is not borrowing for the right reason. So that means that people have not taken the time to sit down and say, okay, what exactly do I need? And what do I just want? And so our needs are basic. And I'm sure we all know what our needs are. Basic meals, water, shelter, transport, of course, health services, and things like that. And then the things that we want, which seem to take most of our money. The list is endless. It's longer than the needs. And this has all the things that make us feel good about ourselves, the fancy food. I mean, I'm a victim of things like that. Subscriptions to all these, internet, video games, fast food, designer clothes, holidays and vacations, parties, big weddings. So the fact is, these are all things that we want. And somehow we've managed to convince ourselves that we need them. But it's important for us to actually say, these are wants and these are needs. And so I need to be careful with how I'm spending on both of these. There's a saying that money saved is money earned. Many of us on this talk today are probably in the formal sector of employment. Some of us have been lucky enough to have maybe a side business or another source of income, but many of us rely solely on our salaries. So if you don't have another source of income, it means that the only way you're going to earn is from saving, because you have a salary, and if you don't spend all of it, then you're earning because you're saving what you would have otherwise spent. So that's one of the ways I choose to look at it, that money saved is actually money earned. And so the next discussion is how to budget. The word budget usually has negative connotations. I think it's now more friendly. A friendlier term is a spending plan. Because when you say budget, people already start feeling restricted. The word budget itself comes with feelings of restriction. But the fact is we have to budget. And people will always ask, how do I budget? And the first thing we do is make a plan for your money. And it sounds like a general thing or a generic thing, but developing a spending plan is actually something that you can start by doing, even with your daily spending. If you have a certain amount of money in your pocket and you decide that today this is what I'm going to spend, you're actually starting to budget. As you get better at it, you can then look at longer term, a week, a month. But the fact is, for a budget, you have to be able to look at your spending, which is something we don't start to budget. So the other one is, of course, reviewing your plan periodically, because you might start out with a plan and the plan says, in this month, I want to spend 500,000. And you may not be able to achieve that in the first month, but you need to go back and look at where you were not able to achieve and what happened, what took you off the plan. And that's what we call reviewing your plan periodically, because as you review it, you're able to identify where the challenges are and what you can do to get back in line with your plan. And then finally, one of the very important ways that you can budget is through getting help. Get help. Get help from people who probably you have seen have been able to manage their finances better, people who you know have been able to save, people who you know are not over-borrowed. They can give you advice. And sometimes if you have a habit that is dragging you down and you really want to save more, you want to spend less, then you can get help from someone who can, time and time again, keep encouraging you in the right direction, or can even give you advice on how you can move away from some of those habits that are dragging you down. So why you need a spending plan, of course, is to prepare for large expenses. In life, we never know when some of these large expenses are going to hit us. And so we need to save so that we can prepare for these expenses. If you don't have a spending plan, you cannot save. So to become a better saver, like I had said, you must have a spending plan. Because once you have decided how much you want to spend, then you're able to identify how much money you can then save. And then also to prepare for surprise expenses. And like I had already mentioned, to identify wasteful spending. Now, once you've been able to do all this, then you should be able to achieve, or to at least partially achieve, the goals that you set out to. So a spending plan is very similar to a budget, and it's really just a method of distribution of income among the things you need, and in some cases, the things you want, because we are not here to choke ourselves. And many people will tell you, people who talk about saving, they're not realistic, or they're living in another world. That's what they'll say. So yes, there are certain things that you want that we are not saying you shouldn't get, but you should be able to distribute your income amongst those things. First, the ones you need, then the ones you want, without necessarily going overboard. And how you can use that plan is you list all your income sources, list all the amounts of the income, and then you list all your expenses. It's as simple as that. Then you compare the totals. So of course, there are different types of income. Already talked about this. Then people have fixed incomes, variable incomes, which are known but irregular. And then there are periodic incomes like school fees. School fees is something that really, it gets me all the time. Every time we're in a school fees season, you'll see a lot of us advertising school fees loans. And a lot of people will, they their lives change because they have to pay school fees. So they say, I can't do this because I have to pay school fees. And I always ask myself, but I don't know, what is wrong with us human beings? It's not like you've just discovered you have this child or these children. Ever since they were born, you've known that you're going to have to pay school fees. But school fees season is still something that disorganizes so many people. And that's why we continue to make money even from school fees loans. So if we saved, if we managed our expenses and were better planned for the fixed, variable, and periodic expenses, then I think we would have less panic around school fees time. I watched a video recently, I will not say who was in the video, but I'm told the public didn't receive it very well when he said that you've been at home for the last 8 months, and now again you want to pay fees in installments. So when I watched it, I was actually amused, but I'm told people were saying that's not fair, we've been in COVID, which is understandable. But I think the point he was trying to make is, what did we expect after all these months? Of course, at some point, the children are going to go back to school. So it's something we can't run away from. It's periodic, but we know it's going to happen. And we know if we don't adjust our lifestyles now, then we'll end up in trouble when the time comes. So on the other side, what happens when you don't have a spending plan? Of course, if you don't have a spending plan, then you will come up short on money before the next paycheck or before the next deal, the next income. I think we've also had the joke that says the people who say that there's too much month left at the end of my salary. It's because the salary is never enough to take you through the whole month. So you're left with more month than salary. And without a spending plan, that is inevitable. That's what's going to happen. And the second one is you're definitely unlikely to reach your goals. The third one, which is something that we always see, is you have additional stress because you're struggling to keep up with payments. You've borrowed from I don't know how many people, and because you were not able to manage your spending, because you have no saving, you're now getting stress because you have to keep up with these payments that you have to make. Then the other one is you may need to give up something you had planned, especially if the money that you have needs to be used for unexpected emergencies that you had not planned for. So this is something that will always affect us. If you do not have a spending plan or you're not saving, inevitably you're going to give up on something that you would have wanted or something that you had planned for. And finally, you would also give up on your independence because you have to rely on others. You have to ask relatives for loans. You have to try very hard, to make ends meet. And in all that, you're giving up your independence because when you're borrowing, you're becoming a slave to the people you're borrowing from. And if you're not able to do certain things because of the wrong decisions you've made in the past, then it can only end badly. So when we leave this session, as we continue this month with the financial awareness, the Money Matters Week, let's ask ourselves this question. Are you able to tell where your money went instead of wondering? If somebody asks you for the last 1 month, are you able to say where you spent maybe your last salary? Because many of us, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience, before I created a budget, before I created a spending plan, I could never tell where the money has gone. All I know is I got money and it got finished. I don't know exactly where it went. So I'm really challenging us to create a spending plan so that you can be able to tell in the first place where your money went. Once you can tell where that money went, then you're able to control it better and to save more. So you can choose any of these situations because these are things that happen to us all the time. Maybe there's something you've been wanting to purchase. It could be furniture, it could be maybe an electronic appliance. Perhaps you're planning an upcoming event, maybe an anniversary, even a wedding. If you could just choose one of these and create a spending plan for these things. If there's something you want to purchase and you've given yourself 6 months, and you go through your spending plan and just decide, okay, if I cut down on this and the other, I can save this amount and I may be able to purchase this. Just test yourself and see if it works out for you. It's a challenge that we can start with. It doesn't have to be something big, but it will really help you to identify where the leakages are in your pocket. So we save because we want to achieve something. I find it really redundant for us to save if there's nothing that we are saving for. I find it personally more encouraging when I know that I'm saving for something. like I've given you the previous example, if there's something that I know I have planned for, whether it's a holiday or maybe there's something that we need to pay for, the people who are close to me will let you know, I actually sit down and write down the amount of money that is needed in January or in February. And then I see that as a goal and say, now we need to save towards that. I have found that it has made me a better saver, because when I know what I want, what I'm saving for, then I'm able to cut down on my expenses. I'm able to think twice before spending. And I think it's also something that if you're the kind of person who likes to achieve goals, can drive you into becoming a better saver. So you plan ahead. If you, I mean, it could be short term, maybe 3 months, it could be medium, a year, it could be long term, more than a year. But once you have a goal, and please make sure that your goal is achievable. Sometimes we discourage ourselves, or we set ourselves back by setting goals that even we know we can't achieve. I mean, you have an income of 1 million shillings, and then you say that in 1 year, I want to have saved 50 million. I mean, unless you have plans of doing something illegal, I don't see how you can achieve that. So let's set smart goals, but let us have a goal, because a goal, I can assure you, will actually get you to focus onto saving for that goal. So this is an exercise that has worked for me a number of times. And it's also something that I think could make you a better saver. And it's called the stop, drop, and think before you buy test. Every time you walk into a shop, and for me, this doesn't even have to be a physical shop, because I do a lot of online shopping. That has been one of my biggest challenges, actually. You ask yourself, do I need this, or do I want it? It's a simple question, and you have to be honest with yourself, because there's no point in deceiving yourself. So if the answer is, if I don't need it, why do I want it? Because if you need it, then it's different. Maybe that is clear. But if you don't need it, why do I want it? Now, the third one is one that has really saved me from a lot of unnecessary expense. Exactly when will I use or wear it? This is helpful for us women. In the past, I don't know how many items of clothing or shoes I have bought because they looked nice at that moment, but I never stopped to ask myself, for which occasion, or when am I exactly going to use this? And then these things, we end up piling them up in our homes. Even books, I mean, people go and buy books that they probably will never get the time to read. So I think this is a good question for us to ask ourselves, exactly when am I going to use it? So that when you go back and look at that very nice dress with a low back, or, that 6-inch heel shoe that you know you will never wear, you stop yourself from buying it. Then the next one, if perhaps you know that you're going to use it at some point, can I find it cheaper somewhere else? Sometimes we are lazy shoppers. You walk into a place, you see something, it's nice, the first price they tell you, you pay. You don't bargain. You don't try to see if you can get it cheaper somewhere else. Remember what we talked about? Money saved is money earned. So if you can get it cheaper, then you have saved and you have become a better saver. And then lastly, what will I have to give up or put off by buying this now? Because our income is not, it's not like we have income that doesn't get finished. There's nobody who has endless, inexhaustible income. All of us have income that we know, this is the amount that I have. So meaning everything that you choose to buy, you're actually foregoing something else. So you have to ask yourself, what am I foregoing? If I'm choosing to buy this handbag or these shoes now, and yet it means that tomorrow I'll not be able to buy pajamas for my children, or I'll not be able to buy something that is probably more necessary, that can also help you to make a better decision. Great, I get a message that my internet is not stable. I don't know if I can be heard.
We can hear you.
Goretti?
Yes, there is a bit of lapse, but we can hear you.
Okay. So why save? I think this is something that I've already spoken about before under the money habits, but I just thought I would list a few points. Why do we save? Why do we even save? I told you about the people who ask themselves that question. Why should I save if I don't know I'm going to live until that time that I'm saving for? And I think it's important for us to be positive, first of all, that we are going to be there in the future. You can't live a life thinking that I may not be there, or what if I die tomorrow? Because some of us have responsibilities even over other people who will be there when we are not there. So the first thing we need to drop is that mentality of I may not be there tomorrow to enjoy this money. Because whether it is us or our dependents, we save so that we can invest for future spending. Because there'll be a time in the future when we will need to spend, or when our children will need to spend. And so that's why we are saving right now. We save so that we can invest, and in the future, we can be able to get the things we need and want. We also save to get flexibility and choice. Like I had mentioned earlier, when you don't save, you're at the mercy of loans, of borrowing. You're not able to decide what to buy, for example, because maybe the amount of money you have is less than what you would have wanted. And so you're forced to buy a lower quality product because that's the money that you have. But if you've been careful and you've been able to save, then you have flexibility and choice, and you can choose amongst different things that probably you wouldn't have had the option to. The other reason to save is to buy or build property. Here in the bank, we give mortgages to customers who would like to purchase property or who would like to construct. But one of the requirements is that the borrower has a personal contribution. This personal contribution is an indication of your seriousness financing.
Miranda, we missed you. We missed you for a bit.
Oh, okay. I was talking about why we need to save to have a personal contribution or to build a personal contribution. Here in the bank, we give mortgages. And when someone comes to take a mortgage, we always ask them, what is your personal contribution? Your personal contribution is the amount of money you're bringing to the table. And it shows how serious you are about the project. Because the bank cannot lend you 100% for any project that you're undertaking. So when you have some savings, then you're able to contribute to this project. And that means that you will borrow less, which reduces your cost. But it also means that you're able to demonstrate that you are into this project. Without a personal contribution, very few banks will give you a mortgage. Another reason we save is to get out of debt or to reduce our debt. I've just talked about mortgages. Some debt is not bad debt. Some debt is necessary debt. So when you save, you're able to reduce that debt. And every time you reduce your debt, you reduce your expense because you reduce the total interest that you're going to spend on this loan. And then finally, and I'll keep on repeating this, we save to cater for unforeseen expenses and emergencies, because these are things that we don't plan for, but they are things that always happen. You have a car, you lose the tire, or you have maybe thieves break into your house and you don't have insurance and they take things that you need on a daily. So there are always going to be unforeseen expenses and emergencies that we will not know. But one of the major reasons why we save is so that we can cater for these. So there's a certain principle that we usually talk about called pay yourself first. When you save, and we've kind of put it in an acronym, where S is set money aside for big ticket items, avoid borrowing, which costs you more money. It's very wise to save a little now for later. And every time you pay yourself first, you have more money to spend later on things that are important to you. When you pay yourself, and this is something that I practice personally, out of my income, I actually pay myself. Because I know that I don't have to use all my income at that very moment. So I make a note of what I need to use, and I pay myself out of that income. So that I set some money aside for other things, which are not necessarily personal. Some could be family expenses, some could be payment of loans. But out of what remains, I remove just some to pay myself, and then put the rest towards other expenses. And so you can sit down and just do this for yourself. Once you've listed your expenses and income as part of the earlier exercise we had talked about, the spending plan and the budget, you look at the results. If your expenses are higher than your income, which is possible and likely for many of us, then the first thing you need to do is to reduce your variable expenses. The groceries, the example we're given of groceries. We go into grocery shops these days, and I know I also do it myself, and pick things that were not even on the list. I'm just picking things because they're in front of me. The other thing we need to look at is how can we increase our income? Some of us have fixed incomes. How can we grow this income? And then finally, we need to reduce our unnecessary expenses. Then on the other hand, if we are lucky enough and we find that our income is greater than our expenses, then we begin by paying yourself first, savings. You can put some money in savings. And also very importantly, you can reduce any loan obligations that you might have. So following from putting some of our money into savings, I'll just give a brief on the kinds of savings accounts that we have in the bank. And this cuts across the industry. It's not only in our bank, in DFCU, but in all the banks that you go to, at least the commercial banks, you're going to find quite a number of savings accounts. And so it's important that you try to understand what you get out of each of those products. You'll find some accounts are just ordinary savings accounts. You'll find others for students. If you want to save for your children, you'll find some have children's accounts. And then in DFC, we have a unique account called an investment club, which I'll also introduce later. But these are all savings accounts. And what defines them is that, first of all, you earn interest on them. You earn interest on these accounts. Secondly, you should be looking at the kinds of fees that are charged on these accounts, because these fees should be minimal or none at all compared to current accounts. So whenever you go to open a savings account, you need to look at the features of the account and how this is working for you. Because you don't want to put money in an account and then it reduces when you're trying to save. You want to look at how you're going to grow this money. Another account that we have is a smart plan account. That is specific to DFCU. Other banks could be calling it something else. But this account is kind of a forced savings account. It forces you to save because you set a standing order on your operational account and direct certain money into that account on a regular basis. You can choose to do it on a weekly, on a monthly, quarterly basis. And this account also earns interest. But the best thing about that account is that it's not an operational account. So you can't use that money until the period that you committed to has passed. So it forces you to save because you commit to that standing order. And at the same time, it restricts your access to that money. So it helps you to save. Then the third one is a fixed deposit. I'm sure we are all familiar with this, a fixed deposit account where you put money for a certain amount of time and you cannot access that money. This money earns interest over the period. You negotiate with your bank, depending on how much you're fixing and for what period, and you're able to leave that money there. You cannot touch it. It is not an operational account. So Goretti already mentioned that someone will be talking to you about borrowing. So I think I'll not speak much about borrowing, but the way I can introduce borrowing in line with saving is that personally I've found that sometimes borrowing can help you to save. And someone will ask how does that work? And personally, I'll tell you that for the longest time, I didn't have a loan or a mortgage with the bank. But when I look back at that time, I can't really explain where the money went. And so I was not saving it, and yet I also didn't have a loan. So I was failing to account to myself where exactly the money was going. But with a loan, you are forced to reduce on your expenses, because if you have a loan or a mortgage, and a good loan, I'm talking about a mortgage or a loan that was taken for the right purposes, which I'm sure you will discuss with that speaker. Once you've taken this for the right purposes, it helps you because it automatically reduces your spending because you have to pay this loan. And the moment this loan is deducted from your income, you are forced to adjust your lifestyle to fit within the remaining income. So borrowing in its own way can actually help you to save better. Yes, I know there's the interest aspect of the loan, but here I'm looking at it more along the lines of the behavior, because so many of us cannot be able to put our fingers on where the money goes. But when you have a loan, somehow you manage to live with the difference. You manage to live within the reduced income because you don't have a choice. So, of course, the major reason that we save is we are putting money aside so that it can be invested. And investing money is the process of using our money or capital to buy an asset that you think has a good probability of generating a return. So you cannot think about saving without thinking about investing, because we are not just saving to postpone our spending. Yes, we are saving for the future, but like I had mentioned earlier, we save to invest and then to spend. So we are not just saying that we want to become better savers so that we can spend in the future. No, we want to save so that we can invest, and this money earns more money such that in the future we are able to spend. So this is the cycle explaining savings, how it moves into investment to profit, reinvestment, and back to savings. So your savings will keep growing because you're investing. Insurance is yet another aspect that I know you will discuss, but I thought I would introduce it because when you save, you also have to make sure that whatever you're investing in is safe. Because if you save and invest in something that goes bad or goes sour, then you end up in a worse position than where you were before. We've had a lot of testimonies of people who saved money and then put it in forex trading or put it in different ventures that were not safe. And it ended up causing them to even end up in worse positions than they were in before. And so once you're saving, one of the better habits or one of the ways to be a better saver is to take on insurance. To take on insurance for whatever products it is that you have, if you have a car, for example. I know many people don't believe in taking insurance for their cars because they say, but what if I don't get an accident? But then the other question is, what if you do? Because if you do, then you're going to have to spend money to fix that car. Money that you probably won't have, or money that you probably would have saved for something else. So it's difficult for you to be a better saver if you don't consider insurance to protect yourself against some of these unexpected losses. So insurance is something you need to consider as part of saving. And there are different types of insurance: travel, auto, home, life insurance. I mean, life insurance is something that is mandatory for us here in the bank for a lot of our loans. And many customers actually come in and say, but I don't want insurance. Why are you forcing me to take it? And we are continuously telling them, look, if something happened to you and you lost your life in the middle of this loan, you don't want the bank to now start going to your next of kin over property. And so it's something we just have to keep on explaining to borrowers so that they understand the importance of life insurance, because otherwise they would easily have their life savings or their family savings wiped out because they refuse to take insurance. So an investment club, this is something I said I would just introduce briefly. You will hear more about this as part of the awareness month. An investment club in DFC, we have defined it as a group of individuals. Minimum number is 4. Up to 50. These could be friends, co-workers, neighbors, old boys and old girls who come together to pool resources primarily for saving and, of course, investment. So this is something that we have developed and that we continue to drive aggressively because we have found it's one of the ways that we have helped Ugandans to save better. So the point I'm making here is that if you're struggling to save as an individual, it might be easier for you to identify 3 or more other people and to start saving as a group, because you can't do it alone. And we've also found that many of us need help. If you come together as a group, you're able to push each other, you're accountable to each other, and you're able to save more. And also when you pool your savings together, your savings multiply faster and you can make better investments that will earn you even more than what you would have earned if you were investing alone. And then lastly, it also promotes networking, and you can derive social benefits from this group. We have investment clubs where people refer each other for business deals, where people encourage and lift each other up during times when their business is not going well. So an investment club will help to improve your life in so many ways, beyond even just encouraging you to save. So lastly, I'm just going to summarize what I have talked about in a few quick tips on how to become better savers. The first one is start. Just start immediately. There's never going to be a time when it's easier to start. We always tell ourselves, I'll start when I'm earning more money. Then you start earning more money and you don't. Then you say, okay, I'll start when I have finished probably when I've gotten married and I've settled. We always give ourselves, these dead promises that I will start at this point when I get a better job. But the fact is that time will never come. So just start now, no matter how little it is. Even if you're saving 5,000, 10,000, we have investment clubs where people save 5,000 shillings a month, but it actually accumulates and it helps them to adjust to that new lifestyle of saving. The other one is reduce your debt, or even don't borrow where there's no need, where it's not good debt. Don't take it. And good debt is clear. I mean, things like money lenders. I always tell people, I know sometimes we're in desperate situations, but the kind of debt where you're paying interest that is so exorbitant will never be good debt. So if you want to save, begin by getting rid of that kind of debt. Cut down on groceries. I already mentioned this. Before you go shopping, look at your home, look at what you have. I found that personally, I used to buy things we do buy things that we already have. You go to the supermarket and you buy toothpaste, yet there are 2 new toothpastes at home. So are we actually looking at what we have before we go? Are we sticking to the list, or are we deviating from the list? You have your list of 10 items, you leave the supermarket with 20 items because you couldn't resist seeing that nice new flask or something that wasn't even on your list to begin with. Another thing that I have found, especially for groceries, and this started during the lockdown, you can shop online, because when you're online, it's easier for you to just go through your list, select the items. I think even Capture Shoppers does it, and they pack and you pick the things, because you're resisting the temptation of being in the supermarket and looking at the other displays of things that probably you don't need. Then cancel automatic subscriptions and memberships. This is also one of my challenges. I have found that I have subscribed to things, online reading, online books, which I don't read, all kinds of Prime memberships on Amazon. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm a Prime member on Amazon and I pay money every month. I don't even know what I'm paying it for. So these are things that you just need to get out of, and I've canceled most of them. But one that really amuses me is many of us subscribe to gyms. You're a member of a gym and you're actually paying, and it. Okay, this is a unique year, they've been closed, but even when business has been normal, people pay gym membership, but they never step in the gym. I don't know whether it helps us to psychologically think that we are becoming fit because you're a member of a gym, but it's really something that you're wasting money. So if you're not going to that gym, then you ought to stop paying that. You can walk around your home at the very least. Then buy generic items, ignore brand names. This is another weakness that I know we suffer from. You go to the supermarket and I'll speak for myself. I want Kellogg's, cornflakes, and yet there's another brand. We are attached to brands. Many of us are attached to brands, and yet you find that there are other things that may not be the brand that you like, but are actually cheaper. So let's give them a chance. Let's try them out. Sometimes they might not be good, but you might find that you discover something nice that's better than even the branded item that you love so much. Save money automatically. I've talked about the standing orders. I gave the example of the Smart Plan. That's just one of them. You can have a standing order to an investment club. You can have a standing order to a savings account that you're not using. Basically, the point is, don't wait to think about it. If you're able to set up a standing order, which is going to take off the money automatically before you have to think about it or before you get the chance to spend it. Then spend extra income wisely. Many of the people on this call are blessed enough to get maybe a 13th check at the end of the month or a bonus, but a lot of the time, even before the bonus comes, we've spent it. Sometimes we've even already bought the things in our minds. But when you get extra money or unexpected income, it is wise for you to use it to pay off debt, to create an emergency fund, or to boost your savings fund for the time when you will actually need it. Because it's so unfortunate if you get a bonus in March and in May, you're borrowing money because your car had an accident or something like that. Then the other one is reduced energy costs. This is something that many of us also struggle with, leaving water running, leaving lights on, heaters and things like that. We don't take the time to actually try and reduce those small costs on energy and utilities that would actually help us to save more money in the longer run. Unsubscribe from emails. There are always things that will come into you about how things are on sale, how there's a deal now, 50% off. By the way, the internet is one of our weaknesses. They'll come and tell you how you can buy this and get this free. And every time you see those emails, you're tempted to actually go and buy those products. Number 10 is something that I do a lot, and it's something that I encourage people to do, and that is pack lunch. I never used to pack lunch until a time when I actually sat down and calculated how much I spend on lunch in the office. When you sit down and count how much money you're spending on food and snacks, is when you realize that, sometimes it's easier to just pack food from home. And now that many of us are working from home, we should be able to save that money that would otherwise have spent in a restaurant if we're working in the office or in town. So this is something that I think people should take more seriously. I mean, a lot of people in developed countries do this, but I see with my own eyes people who I work with who eat in expensive restaurants where food is 20,000, 30,000 on a day. And finally, ask about discounts. I mentioned this earlier when we were doing the stop and think about it. Can you get something cheaper elsewhere? Can you get a discount from where you're buying it? And then take advantage of your retirement savings plan. Some of us work for organizations where we have provident funds, where you contribute money and your employer contributes, but many people don't take advantage of this. I have never understood why somebody would not take advantage of this, because it means you're reducing on your expense so that you can save more with your employer contributing to that saving. If there's anyone who's not taking advantage of this, I think you're making a very big mistake. And then lower your phone bills, costly data and things like that. Small habits that we can change. So Goretti, that's the end of my presentation. These are just quotes that I think I can leave on the screen. The quickest way to double your money is to fold it and put it back in your pocket. Basically, don't buy that thing that you wanted to buy. Don't take money advice from people who don't have a plan. If your broke friends are making fun of you, it means that you're on the right track. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. I'm sure many of you have had this, or to impress people who don't care anyway. Many of us have had this before. When you see somebody, spending money in a bar, buying rounds for people who don't even know the name of the person who's buying. These are all things that we do to impress people who don't even care. So these are things we need to stop doing. Buying things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people. Then beware of the little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. So I'd like to thank you all for listening. I know I've spoken quite a bit. Goretti, I'm happy to take any questions from you or from any of the participants.
Wow. Thank you very, very much, Miranda, for this enlightening presentation. Because I'm on this side and you've taken off your screen, I wanted to repeat a few of those that were really exciting. I think the one about a sinking ship is interesting, to mind those expenses, small expenses. You say, beware of little expenses, a small leak will sink a great ship. This is awesome. I think that is something that we can all take away. Now, the other big one is personal finance is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. You're as good as telling us we are here, but if we don't take action, and we will remain where we are. So thank you for that. And also the quickest way to double your money is to fold it over and put it back in your pocket. I think you chose some really nice ones. Thank you very much. I must say that one of the things that I've picked away and I think we shall use in the month is when you talked about a spending plan. I think very often people talk about budgets, and saving plan. I think it's a nice way that you have converted that to a spending plan. I think that will enable us to change a bit of behavior. So friends, that is what Miranda has got for us. I know that there is, I saw one hand. We received quite a number of questions before, and so I'll ask those questions. But let me give an opportunity to the hand up, and I don't know whether you're related. There is a Michelle Bagane. I don't know whether that's your daughter or something.
She's my sister.
It's your sister. So Michelle had her hand up a long time ago. I hope she's sharing a testimony. And then we shall have Esther, and then we shall, I'll ask you the questions that I got. So Michelle, Michelle, is it possible for you to type in the Q&A? Derek, are you able to let Michelle ask her question? Okay, as that comes up, let me ask. I have a question for you that says, what advice do you have for people who earn as little as 1,000 shillings or 5,000 to 5,000 a day because they exist? That is one. The second one is, how do we get children to start saving? Then the third one is, what sets a trust fund apart from a savings account, and why is it necessary to set up a trust fund? I think you can ask those three questions first. I mean, answer those.
Okay. I'll start with the question about people who earn little. So we all have different sources of income. We all have different amounts of income. But what I have found is that our savings have absolutely nothing to do with our income, the amount of income that we have. And I'll explain that from my experience having worked in the bank. We have very many customers who earn a lot of money, but who never save or who don't save anything. And sometimes even us, I mean, I will look at them and say, but this person is earning so much money. Why is it that they have to keep coming for an overdraft? They have to come and get a credit card. Basically, it's like they are not able to live within what they have, yet it's a lot. By any standards, it's a lot. So the question now becomes, is the issue really about how much you're earning? I don't think so. I can confidently say it's not about that. So taking it back to the person who earns what you would call little, 1,000 or 5,000, it looks little to most of us on this group. But I'll tell you that I have seen with my own eyes, people who don't earn much, but who save. Someone once asked me, but we worry so much about our children, what they're going to wear, what kind of clothes. So she asked me, but how do you think those ladies in the market who are selling vegetables manage to take their children through school? I think sometimes we have to get out of the mindset that we are in and just realize that no matter how little or how much you have, the point is you have to make it a habit to put something aside. So if you're earning 5,000, you can put aside 1,000. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people saving 1,000 every day. Some of the groups we have, the circles, the investment clubs with our group offering, they save 1,000 shillings every day. At the end of the month, this lady has 30,000 shillings. At the end of the year, she has 360,000. And my affluent customer who earns 17, 18 million shillings, at the end of the year has more debt than savings. So it's really just a mindset. It's a choice that you make. It's not about the amount of money, because we all manage to live within our means. We adjust our lifestyles within our means. And this can be positive or negative. The more money you get, the more you spend. The less you have, the less you spend. So the people who we say are earning little are also spending little. So they are also able to save. The other question, after people who earn less, how do we teach children? How do we teach children about saving? I think children learn a lot from us, not from what we say, but from what we do. We model our behavior to children. So if children see us being careless or being wasteful, these are some of the things they're going to learn from us. Right now, I'm part of a parenting class, so I don't want to make this into a parenting class. But we model to our children what we want them to be. Now, I'm not saying that we should teach our children to be stingy, no, but we should teach them the importance of, number one, not wasting, and two, appreciating what they have. Because a child who does not appreciate the little that they have or what they're being given is always going to want to spend more or to get more things or to be given more things. So we have to teach them to, first of all, appreciate whatever it is that they have before them as a blessing, not as an entitlement, but as something that they have been blessed with. And that way, they should be able to know that, the money is not there just to be spent. We have to explain to them that money comes out of hard work. There's a time when at that time he was, I think, 4, he thought that the ATM just has money, that you just go to the ATM and get money. But you have to explain to them that this money comes out of my hard work. And so it cannot just be spent anyhow. And once you explain to them some of these things, at the same time, you're teaching them not to waste. I think they will become better savers. Then the last question was about a trust fund. Great, if you can repeat, if you're saying what's the difference between a trust fund and a savings account?
Yes. And why is it necessary to set up a trust fund?
Okay. Now, trust funds are usually set up on behalf of, okay, let me give an example. If say children lost their parents, then people who have an interest in the well-being of these children would set up a trust fund, which is a legal entity. It's actually a legal entity. It would be set up on behalf of these children, just to make sure that any income or assets that are being left behind for them are better managed. I know we've all had stories of, recently I actually lost a relative who died alongside with her husband during the lockdown. And my biggest fear is what was going to happen to these children. Sometimes we work so hard to accumulate assets, and then we don't make plans for how these assets are going to be managed in the unfortunate event of our death. So trust funds usually are set up to manage assets on behalf of other parties who could be probably unable to manage them on their own or on their behalf. And on the other hand, a savings account can be opened by anybody. So in the same example, somebody could come and open a savings account for those children. But remember, that savings account, you can access that money anytime. And the law doesn't allow us to open savings accounts for minors. So there has to be an adult who is taking care of these people, who will be the sole manager or who will be operating that account. So you can't be sure that this money will not be used for other things other than for the well-being of these beneficiaries to a trust fund. So the difference between the two is that a savings account, the money will be accessible to whoever the account has been, whichever names the account has been opened in, while a trust fund has a lot more governance around it to ensure that this money is actually being used for the right purpose, because they have to appoint a trustee, and then the trustee has certain obligations around how this money is to be spent. I hope I've answered that question.
Thank you very much, Miranda. I think you have. I have a question from Daniel. Daniel says, standing order charges are an extra cost I've been avoiding. The only challenge is the discipline to consistently save every month. You might want to talk about that.
Okay,
another one is from Patricia. Just hold on. Patricia says, my challenge is now to begin a daily spending plan. Can you advise about that? Should it be a daily spending plan or otherwise?
Okay. So I'll start with the
just hold on. I want to ask 3 questions. Then Michelle says she wanted to ask about the Provident Fund and what it takes to introduce it to the company where she works. And the 4th one, I don't know whether you're writing or we first answer the
I'm writing.
Okay, the 4th one is, how do Pinnacle customers benefit from life insurance?
Okay.
That's it for now.
Those are 4. Okay, so I'll start with the standing order charge. That's a very good question. And actually, of course, now I speak as a staff of DFCU, so I cannot speak against any of the charges on our tariff. But like I mentioned earlier, when choosing a bank or choosing an account, you need to look at some of these charges. Look at how much the bank is charging you for a standing order. Look to see if it is actually even charging you for this standing order. I know that, for example, we charge a small fee for internal standing orders, but for standing orders that are going outside the bank to another bank, we charge a bit more. So yes, it is something that might be a cost to you, but overall, like you've said, it creates that discipline. And that discipline is a bigger benefit to you than the cost of actually setting up that standing order. There's nothing in life that is good that comes without a cost. That I'll tell you for a fact. Many times, of course, customers complain about the costs that they have to go through, but what we try to explain and to put to them is the benefit that they are deriving out of it. Because if you didn't have this standing order, you would have spent that money, which would really be to your own detriment. The question from Patricia, how to begin a daily spending plan. Now, I think the first things that we need to look at is when you start with a shorter period, you can do it, say, on a weekly basis. So every Saturday, for example, you look at what you spent right from Monday. And to be able to do that means you have to write it down. So you can either have a physical notebook or you can put it in your phone if you're good at gadgets, that every day, every time you spend, you write down what you've spent. Because the very first thing you have to be able to do is to remember what you've spent on if you want to develop this spending plan. So if you write down on Monday, I bought this, I bought coffee from Java's, at lunchtime, I went and spent 30,000 on this, then I just write it down. It's an exercise that's just going to help you at the end of that week to look at your daily spending. I spent this amount on fuel, maybe I bought airtime for this amount. So it's just something that you're doing maybe for 7 days. If you could, it would be better if you did it for 14 days because it gives you a bigger period to look at. And then you now, okay, this was a need, this was a want, this I didn't have to spend, this one I could have waited and spent at the end of the month. And then you come up with a figure and say on a daily, I do not want to spend more than 20,000. So you go back. The next 2 weeks, you try it out. So where you've been buying a coffee for 15,000, that's the first thing you're going to remove. Maybe you make the coffee at home and carry it in a cup. So how you start is really by first of all making a record of what you're spending on right now. The record will show you where the money went instead of you wondering. Again, I'm getting the message of my internet connection. Okay, the Provident Fund and what it takes to introduce it to the company where you work. A Provident Fund is really a benefit that employers choose or opt to give to their staff. I'm not so sure about the process on how it can be started, but I believe this information, I can get this information and share it with you. But what you need to know is that the employer makes an equal contribution as the employee. I know there are some provident funds where the employee is allowed to make more, to save more, but the employer commits to a certain contribution such that the savings for the month is doubled. And then this money is invested in, it's a fund. So that means it's invested in, depending on, it's handed over to a fund manager and invested in various investments. Many of the times they are parts, government securities, some of them are invested in equities. So this money is collected in a fund and it's invested, and the members who are now the staff will continue to earn an interest on their savings. There is governance around how the Provident Fund works. I know you must have at least auditors in your company to be able to ensure that this money is well invested, because you don't want to collect people's savings and then it's not But I can always find out more information on how you can do it for your company. Then how do Pinnacle customers benefit from life insurance? The life insurance that we offer in DFC, the beneficiaries are the next of kin. The benefit to a client who has life insurance, especially the life insurance that is embedded in a product like Pinnacle, would be to the people who remain after you pass on. So once you're a Pinnacle customer, paying a monthly fee on your account, should you pass on while you're still a Pinnacle customer, the bank arranges an insurance package with our partner insurance company we're working with, and we pay to your beneficiaries an amount of 11 million shillings. And this money has nothing to do with how much money you had on your account or how much you used to put there. All that matters is that you are a Pinnacle customer paying the monthly fee. So that's the benefit. I hope, Peter, you are not hoping to be the one to benefit from this money. The benefit is that your beneficiaries or your next of kin will receive this money.
Thank you, Miranda. I have another set of 4 questions. The first one is, saving is good, from Fiona.
Yes.
Saving is good, but
Goretti, I've lost you. I don't know if it's my internet. Hello?
An anonymous attendee.
Goretti, I keep losing you. I don't know if it's my network.
So Miranda, my internet is also a bit off. When I stop, you just start off with the question I asked. But the second question, what do you advise for somebody who is between 30 to 35, salary earner, not married? Is it safety? Should she go for safety, government securities, or should she go for growth, e.g. rentals, land, or business? What do you advise?
Okay.
Then there is one from Jude. Jude says, what advice does Miranda have for people who use shopping cards issued by banks? Should the cards be dropped back to the bank? Then the last one, and I think you can see it as well. How do you effectively manage shared finances when one party has good financial management and the other doesn't? What tools can be used to encourage shared financial responsibility?
Okay. I got a bit worried. I thought it was my internet. But just let me know in case I'm not being heard. Goretti, you can just let me know. So the first one about savings is good, but there are things you can't enjoy at 80. Now, I think I mentioned this earlier. There are many people who believe that why should you save? Because this is the time to enjoy, isn't it? Now, I'm not advising, because I know you can't go hiking or touring at 80. That's a fact. But I also know that at 80, you don't want to be relying on your children for, we used to make fun of this, for Vaseline, or toothpaste. So yes, time to enjoy could be now. But the question is, how are you also planning for the future? If you're saving right now, there's nothing wrong with taking a vacation. I mentioned it earlier, that we are saving so that we can do the things that probably we were not able to do if we were not saving. So if you've planned a vacation, you want to go hiking or touring, start for it now. Let that be the big expense that you're planning for. And you save towards it and you go on your holiday. We are not telling you that you must save and save and save until you're 80, then you start spending them. No, that's not what we are advising. But at the same time, when you create a retirement fund, which is part of the reason why you save, because you don't only save to go hiking, you also save for retirement. So when you have a retirement plan, it means that when you're actually 80, You can also go on a holiday if you're lucky enough to both be alive with your spouse. These days, people even get married at that age. So you also want to be able to enjoy the things that you can enjoy at 80, because at 80, you will not be able to work. So you'll not be able to earn an income. And the way things are going right now, we are not sure that our children will be able to support us financially. So you must save for the different phases in your life. Save for the hiking, but also save for the time when you're 80. I hope Fiona have answered. How do you relate mobile banking and digital channels to saving? According to me, with mobile banking and digital channels, it's hard to save. Now, somebody could say that because mobile channels give you more access to your money at any time of the day. So the fact is, with technology, even our discipline has to grow. That's the truth. I'll tell you, my savings account, the one where we actually save, my husband and I, we have never put it on online banking. We have chosen not to get a checkbook on that account, not to put it on mobile or on online banking. We have tried as much as possible to make it difficult to remove that money, because we have an operation account where we get the money for daily expense, but the one where we are saving, we actually haven't put it on mobile banking for that very reason, because we know that if it's there, whenever we have a small emergency, we shall remove it. So some of these things, you just have to be more intentional to take the money away from yourself. Put it somewhere where you can't access it. I talked about the smart plan. Put it on that account, because on that account, you can't have mobile banking. Then what you leave on the operational account is what you can access using the mobile banking. What do you advise on the right savings path to take for a salary earner aged 30 to 35, not married? When I read this, I was actually very amused, because usually at this time, people's income is a bit more stable. Maybe they've been able to grow a bit more in their careers, so they're earning relatively more. And if you're not married, then chances are high that you also maybe don't have children, so you don't have a lot of responsibility. So to me, this is the best time for you to take a bit more risk. I would buy, like when you mentioned rentals, land, this is my personal opinion. This is when I would go into things like this, because the fact is you haven't yet started paying school fees, or you haven't yet started spending on some of the things that are coming in the future. So if you're really risk averse, I mean, you could go into the government securities because you don't want to lose anything. But I think this is the right time for you to actually take a little bit more risk to try and earn more on the money that you have. That's my view. Shopping cards issued by banks. I think this person meant debit cards, like the Visa cards that the bank gives. No, you should not drop the card back to the bank, because that card is a tool. It helps you to operate your account. But like I mentioned, to do with the online banking and the digital, all those other channels that we've given to customers to be able to access their money, the ultimate thing that we're trying to do here is, if you want to put money aside, don't put it on an account where you can easily access it using this card, for example. If you really want to save it, put it on a savings account where you don't have a card. Because this card will help you. You know, the advantages that come out of using cards. First of all, the risk of carrying cash is reduced. Then accountability. When I was telling you that you need to write down what you've spent, sometimes it's harder to do that when you had cash in your wallet, because maybe you met someone on the way and gave them 20,000 and you can't remember. But when you use a card, you're able to go into your statement and see each and everything you paid for. That's why I choose to use a card for my expenses, because that way, at the end of the month, I can see what I spent on because I used a card to pay for it. So you don't drop the card back to the bank, because the problem is not with the card. The problem is with you and what you're using the card for. The last one, shared finances. This is a topic that I think we've spoken on many times. When one party has good financial management and the other doesn't. First of all, I think it's a good thing to even reach the point of managing your finances together. I'm assuming this is a married couple. In the first place, it's not easy for many people, especially men, to accept to manage finances jointly. Personally, I think it's a very good thing. And it shows that you have reached a certain level of maturity in the relationship to actually manage your resources together, your finances. So the fact that this party has accepted to even manage them jointly is already a step in the right direction. Now, when one has good financial management and the other doesn't, the more the reason for you to manage them together, because the one who is good is going to help the one who has poor financial management. Because if you don't do it together, then one will go in one side and the other one will struggle to go to the right side, but very frustrated. So the tools that you can use are things like joint accounts. I know many people don't believe in joint accounts, but it's one of the ways that you can help to manage each other, especially with accountability. And what you do on these joint accounts is that you make sure that the signing mandate is both, that both of you have to sign for this money to be taken out of the account. Because every time somebody wants to spend on something that maybe they don't really need because of their habits, knowing that the other person has to sign could make them think twice about it. And a lot of the time why people don't want to have joint accounts is because of that. They don't want to have to speak to somebody else about using what they call their own money. So it's important for us to identify where our weaknesses are and seek help. I think I mentioned that earlier. So if you know very well that your financial management is poor, then allow yourself to be subjected to some of these extra checks and balances so that you don't spend too much. I have a joint account with my husband, but we don't have to both sign. And that's because I would like to think we are both accountable and neither one of us is struggling with financial management to that extent. So it doesn't mean that a joint account means you must both sign. It really goes back to you identifying what your weakness is. If you know that you're going to finish that money from that account, please just sign together. That's one of the tools that I would encourage you to have.
Thank you very much, Miranda. We have a few more minutes. I will, there is a question for you that came outside of the session. How does a fixed deposit account differ from an insurance savings plan? Kindly advise an individual faced with both options. That's one.
Should I answer immediately?
Many people think of savings in money terms. What non-monetary forms exist to facilitate the savings action? The last one, most financial literacy experts advise 20% savings on all earnings. Is 20% the magic number? And okay, another one has come in. Please just bear with this one. Piggy banks are a popular savings tool in many homes, especially low-income households. What is your take on that?
Okay. I think you will have to repeat for me the second one. Let me just start with the first one about the insurance saving versus a fixed deposit. I think that's what the question was. Okay, I'll speak because I'm a customer of some of these insurance savings, and I'm also a customer when it comes to fixed deposits. Now, these differ in the sense that a fixed deposit, you cannot access that money. But by being unable to access it, usually you would earn higher interest on the fixed deposit. So the fixed deposit is not flexible. And yet for some of these, I don't know whether the one they're talking about is the one I know, or it's the one where you keep putting money for a particular goal, because I know there are some insurance savings plans where you keep saving money, maybe for school fees. I've heard of some of those. But where the difference is that with that insurance saving plan, you can keep adding money to it for the length or for the period that you have committed. For the fixed deposit, you fix an amount of money that you already have. And then you wait for that period that you fixed it for, and you earn interest on the amount that you fixed as the principal at the beginning. The insurance, you can keep adding money depending on the plan that you've put into. There are different benefits. Some people keep investing, and then at the end, they receive a certain amount of money, which was their investment goal. So they are different in that way, that the investment plan is not the same. I hope I've been able to answer that. If I haven't, we can come back to it. The second question was, many of us talk about savings in monetary terms. That's what I was able to get. And they were saying that what non-monetary ways can you save? Was that what I saw?
Yes.
Non-monetary. Okay. I don't know if I've understood this person's question very well, because if you look at one of these quotes where we say the quickest way to double your money is to fold it over and put it back in your pocket. So you've not actually gotten more money, but because you have reduced your spending, you have in essence saved. Now, the question, I think maybe Goretti, you might need to help me. If we are discussing saving money, and this person wants to know the non-monetary ways of saving, the only thing I can come up with is really cutting back on your expenses. Maybe I didn't understand the question. Did you understand it differently?
Maybe I see that in some cases, some people who don't save, they either do chicken. I don't know whether it's referring to things like that, like local families that don't really have money, but they rear chicken, and when they have a challenge, they sell chicken. I don't know.
But that in a way is actually saving, because we've been talking about saving to invest so that you're able to spend in the future. I know people who don't believe in keeping money, who say that they don't believe that you should keep money in the bank, that you're saving cash. So I think maybe if that's the line that this person was going into, then they're talking about investment. And investment comes out of saving, because that chicken project, unless you inherited it, or unless you stole the chicken, at some point you must have bought those chicken. So at some point there was money or capital that you invested in this business. So you may not be saving cash, but probably you're growing your business. These chicken are producing eggs, which eggs maybe you can sell, or the business itself is what is sustaining you. But at some point, you needed to have accumulated that money or that capital to start that business. Many people don't believe in saving cash. That's true. I know people who say they keep their money in land. I don't know if you've heard that phrase. So they will not save money, but they will buy land. And that land, because land continues to appreciate, is actually an investment that is earning more. So at a time when they need money, when they have a problem, then they are able to sell the land and sort out the problem. We can't run away from cash. Inevitably, at some point, you need cash, because you can't go to pay your children's school fees with chicken. You will, at some point, need to convert these investments into cash, but you don't have to keep cash. You can have an investment, and you can have some investments which are near cash. Like when somebody talk about the treasury bills or government securities, these are investments where you can keep your money, but when you need it, it's easy to convert it into cash. The other one was there's that magic number of 20% savings on all earnings. Is it a magic number? I think I've read so many resources which say all sorts of things. You'll find one that tells you 10%, some will tell you 25%, others will tell you 50%. I don't think really there's any magic number. I think it goes back to your spending plan and your budget. You start off where you can. If you know, for example, some of us have mortgages. I gave an example. So if a mortgage is taking a big chunk of your income, there's no way you're going to save 20%, because you probably cannot survive on 30%. So you go back to your spending plan, go back and list your income and your expenses. Then you'll be able to identify what your percentage is for you as an individual. Let's not try so hard to follow these percentages that we see on the internet, because everybody has a different income and expense plan. We've talked about people who earn less. Just because you're earning less doesn't mean that your expenses are automatically going to be significantly lower. So your saving may not be that big a percentage. We've also talked about those who earn a lot and are not saving anything. So let's try and individualize these things. Look at it as you, an individual. What are you able to cut back on? And then you determine your own percentage. You can start at 5%. That's okay. It's better than nothing. It can grow to 10. It can even grow to 20, but you first determine what you're able to put aside. Then piggy banks, especially in low-income homes. Piggy banks are everywhere, not only in low-income homes, unless you're talking about those boxes. You know, there are those boxes that people in low-income homes use. They use them a lot of the time for group savings also. They come together at the end of the month, recollect all their money, put it in a box. Now, of course, these boxes have their disadvantages. We've had many stories of boxes being stolen from people's homes, of spouses, one spouse running away with the other ones, the box which had all the women's savings. So, of course, when you look at the safety of the money in the piggy bank, that is one of the reasons why we are trying so much as part of financial inclusion to get some of these monies to move into safer places where they can be kept, where they can be accounted for. These boxes, I know sometimes they have like 3 sets of keys. So they tell themselves, since I don't have all the keys, I'll not be able to access the money. But at the end of the day, we've also heard of homes burning and the box burns. So I think it's a good way for people to start saving, because you don't expect them to walk to the bank every day to take 2,000 shillings. But it's not the best way for them to continue. They have to, at some point, mature and go into better saving ways, better ways of keeping their money. So they can start there, just like our children start with piggy banks. But I hope even as we encourage our children, when the box is full, remove it, count the money, go to the bank with the child, let them save their money. Then they go back and start again with the piggy bank. So it's good for us to be able to help ourselves to save, but it should be able to develop into something better and more sustainable.
Thank you, Miranda. The very last ones, I would like to thank everybody who's asked their questions and who still has them. You can post them as comments on the portal, on the MoneyCan portal or website. But for now, let's take the very last ones, which are 3. How can time affect my savings decision? That's the first one. The next one, for a smart plan, does one have to first create another account which the money will be deducted from? If one is to opt for a standing order, suppose the employer is inconsistent as to when they pay, what do you advise them? What can you advise them? The rest were comments, and I will say the first, very first comment was from Jemima. Jemima, I know, is a big proprietor, but she was here, and she says, nice to be here. Learning is a daily thing, so I think it's a good thing to know that everybody is here to learn. Over to you, Miranda, and then we can end the session.
Okay, Alex Chiumo's question, can time affect my savings decisions? I wish you could have elaborated a bit more on this. I'm not sure how, Goretti, how did you understand this one?
I think it might be that we are talking about saving now, as opposed to tomorrow or the future.
Okay, I think I spoke about this earlier. And what I said is one of the first things we need to acknowledge is that there will never be enough time, or there will never be a better time. You just have to start now with whatever you have right now. Because if you say that I'll start saving in a month's time, even in a month, there will be something else that comes up that probably stops you from saving. So time, in terms of how it affects your savings decisions, what I can answer here is that the time is now. The time to start is now. I hope I've answered, Alex. If you're still on the call, you can maybe elaborate a bit more.
Miranda, one of the things I've come by and which we take for granted is the power of compounding. I think that compounding interest needs to be explained.
All right. So it was actually on one of my slides, which I had removed, and it's the time value of money. So when you start saving now, in a month's time or in a year's time, your money, especially if you put it into an investment or a savings account which is earning interest, should be more than what you had initially saved. So time does have an effect on our money, definitely. And that's why a lot of the time you will find people, before they make a choice on where to put their money, they look at the interest rates, because you don't want to end up in a situation where the value of the money that you have now is even less than what you had saved a year ago. So it's important for you, when you're making these choices on where to put your savings, to look at the interest rates, to look at the compounding factor, whether the interest is going to earn interest. And that's why many people will actually put it even in real estate, because there was a time in this country when when property was appreciating at a rate even higher than all these other investments that people were going into. So definitely time has an effect on our decisions. If you postpone your saving, it means you're going to lose out on interest that you would have earned because you're spending now. If you start now, you will start to earn interest on this money. And in the long run, or in the medium term, that you will see the value of the time that you have saved in form of the interest that you earned on that money. The other one was a smart plan. Do you need to have another account? I'll speak for the DFC product. Yes, you do, because the Smart Plan account is not an operational account. So you need to have that other account where the money is coming from to go onto the Smart Plan. So by it not being an operational account means you cannot withdraw money from it, can't put it on that online banking, you don't pay any fees for that account. It's just an account where you're forcing yourself to save. The last one, the standing order. If your employer delays to pay, or if the income that you're expecting delays to come, what we usually encourage people to do is look for the last date that you receive your income. If, for example, your employer usually pays you between 23rd and 28th, try to set that standing order on 29th. Now, someone will say, but now I'm going to be tempted to spend the money when they pay on the 23rd. But at the same time, you also don't want to commit to a standing order date of 24th when the money has not yet come, because the standing order is going to bounce, which is not a good thing. So try as much as possible to get the latest date when you usually receive that money and set that as your standing order date. It will call for a little bit more discipline for those few days if you're actually paid early, but it will also help to make sure that your standing order doesn't bounce, because if it bounces, you will not achieve the objective of actually saving this money.
Thank you very much, Miranda. I believe, looking at the comments on the chat, that this has been a very useful and insightful presentation. They've mentioned it's been a simple presentation and yet has delivered in all aspects. I do not know if you have any parting shots before we conclude, but I'll let you say them and then get back to the session.
Okay. Well, mine is just really to thank you for this opportunity. Every time I speak about these things, I remind myself as well. And like the First Lady Jemima said, I mean, there's no end to learning. As I'm asked these questions, I'm also forced to ask myself other questions, which help me also become better at my own personal financial management. So it's been a pleasure for me to speak to you. I hope that if there's anything that we picked out of what I've said, it is that the time is now, and never feel like it is too late for you to start, or that you can't do it, or to feel discouraged. Everything that I've spoken about is something that can be started now, whether it's your own personal savings, whether it's group savings, whether it's cutting down on your spending. It is not too late. There is always time, because like I said, let's be positive. We are going to live to be 80, like the other lady mentioned in her question. So if you're going to live to be 80, then it's certainly not too late for you to start now and to change your life now so that you can enjoy a better future. Thank you, Jemima. Thank you, Benedict and team, and looking forward to the rest of the sessions that are going to be on for this month.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Miranda, for that, and the parting shots, very encouraging. I'd like to thank most definitely our strategic partners that have made this possible: the Bank of Uganda, FSD Uganda, EcoBank, Barclays Bank, so many banks that have come together. We've got Bank of Africa, we've got Finca, we've got so many of the other banks that have come up together, EFC, Agford, Stanbic Bank. We really thank all these banks for coming together to support this month, and I know we are continuing to get many more partners, NSSF, the Insurance Association of Uganda. What can I say? We've really been honored. Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, so many of you have come up, and we are hoping that we can get even more so that we get this message out. Miranda, you've given us 2 hours of your time. You've given us your expertise. The DFCU has given you, allowed you time to come out and speak to us. We don't take it for granted. And you've also mentioned that you'd like to be around for the rest of the sessions, which implies that even as an expert, you want to continue learning, and that we should continue learning. On behalf of the bank, of the institute, and on behalf of all our partners, and on behalf of all the listeners, the audience, we would like to say a very big thank you to you, and somebody will come by your office very soon. We really appreciate you. We now want to invite everybody for tomorrow's session. It will be at 3 p.m. It's going to be about personal financial management from an expert. Ideally, it should have preceded this one, but we will be hearing from Joanne, and most of you know who Joanne is. Our flyer will be coming out very soon, and you can read about her and her profile from the web portal. Thank you very much, and we wish you a good evening.
Your money can enable you to live a better life only when you budget and save before you spend. Act now. Learn how to manage your income and expenditure correctly at the Banking Financial Services Awareness Month. Meet the financial experts. Learn how to deal with financial hardships like those caused by COVID-19. Be money smart. Be part of the Banking and Financial Services Awareness Month. Visit www.yourmoneycan.or.ug. Brought to you by the Uganda Institute of Banking and Financial Services, UIBFS.